Hi guys, welcome to the channel, and to those return viewers, welcome back. There's a lot to love within the 40k setting, each one of us having our own origin story, an aspect of the hobby we like the most. Some are more so into the hobby itself, wandering into those weird looking stores with the Games Workshop logo out front, and are hooked by the models and artwork. Others begin their journey through console or PC games, such as Dawn of War or Space Marine. More still are strictly into the lore and narrative side of 40k, not really getting into the army building side of the hobby. Either way, no matter your mode of entry, there's something to say for the unity within this global community and the journey we all undergo as hobbyists, gamers, and fans of the lore. Personally, I've got back into the hobby in recent years after roughly a 17-year hiatus, and I've got to say, the wealth of resources, the depth of lore, and the abundance of community updates and engagement has gotten me hooked back into 40k. I started this channel because I am by nature someone who enjoys guiding and imparting knowledge on others and just helping wherever I can. I believe this approach to others within a community really helps with what may seem like small dilemmas to you, but could really prove a game stopper for others. A little bit of effort on behalf of others can go a long way to lifting someone else's experience, whether it be in the hobby, work, school, or just life in general. And those you've helped are more likely to go on making this space positive for others. Well, for my next project on this channel, now we've gotten through that massive 4-part Primarch series, besides our usual lore videos, which we'll continue to do, I thought we could dive into a tell-all series which navigates through the entire hobby, but also has something for everyone, no matter what aspect of it you love the most. I want to cover the experiences and processes a hobbyist and lover of lore would experience when beginning a new army. I want to cover everything from start to finish, whether you're more a narrative, RPG, lore kind of player, or hobby-based, to those who enjoy competitive play at tournaments, and everything in between. Maybe it will even provide a bit of motivation or security to those who appreciate 40k, but are on the fence about whether they should start the hobby. There are some truly massive milestones that are going to be a part of this video series, with perhaps the most challenging for me personally being a grueling 28 to 30 hour painting challenge. The reason the length of this challenge is a bit variable is that when the channel was around 400 subscribers, I stated that we'd be doing a 24-hour painting challenge as part of building a new army, and that for each 100 subs the channel received, we'd add an extra hour, capping it at 30. At the time of writing this script, Titan Wargaming is sitting at 892 subscribers, just about to break that 29-hour mark. And if we can reach 1,000 subs prior to the challenge, you'll prolong my suffering to a whopping 30 hours of straight painting. Fun times ahead. Overall, the series will consist of me experiencing various lessons across the hobby, which I will share with all of you, hopefully helping those within the Titan Wargaming community along the way, as I champion both the competitive and narrative aspects of the 40k hobby. At this point in time, I've planned for this video log to cover the most important and detailed aspects of starting an army and then learning how to use it, though these practical experiences will also incorporate my warband's background, as well as how their performance on the tabletop affects their own journey also. Perhaps we'll see some of the unit champions rise in esteem, or maybe they'll prove unfit to lead with a standard rank and file trooper, assuming their rank. Time will tell. I'm currently planning for this series to dive into these experiences. The reason I've chosen the faction I have, hopefully helping people to be decisive in their faction choice when they start out. This part will be included in this video. How I've gone about constructing an army list in a somewhat unique way, melding useful competitive units with a narrative spin, including my warband's backstory and various champions' ambitions, hopefully proving that you don't have to be either a strictly competitive player or RPG perspective, and vice versa. Miniature assembly, which includes kit bashing to truly distinguish these miniatures as mine and not all straight out the box. This will also include the colour scheme and bases I've chosen across the army. We will then have the painting challenge, which we mentioned before, which will hopefully prove a 2,000 point force can be completely painted in 30 hours, aiming for the sky a bit, but we're nothing if not determined. I'll then report on my practice games, including photos as I get used to the way the army plays, though these games will also further develop the story of my units and warband narratively. This series will then culminate in me travelling to a tournament a few hours down to Brisbane, putting into practice everything I've learnt through this journey. It's going to be an exciting road, and I hope you're all looking forward to it as much as I am. If there's particular parts of the hobby you want to see included in these videos, put it down in the comments and I'll do my best to include them in the video logs. Now, with the content I've been releasing regarding the upcoming painting challenge, it's probably no surprise to some of the long-time subscribers to this channel that I plan on beginning a World Eaters army. For anybody curious, I do own a mixture of Imperial and Xenos armies currently. One is a Grey Knight force, which is just over 2k points. Another is the beginnings of a Primaris Executioner's chapter force, and for the Xenos fans out there, I do still own the beginnings of my Biltan Craftworld Eldar force. This was my very first army as a child, and something I'll always hold on to, and hope to one day expand on as well. In future, I'd like to attach units from each aspect temple onto the core force, and maybe even some Ynnari units and colours splashed throughout the squads to represent the recent events in the lore. If this massive journaling of my journey from armyless through to tournament is received well by our viewers, I'll consider doing one for either Imperial or Xenos army in the future. So why have I chosen World Eaters? Before I answer that, I think I need to touch on a point that quite a few people may need to hear. I often see posts on community websites such as Facebook, Daka or Reddit from people asking what their first or next army should be and why. And the truth is, only you can decide that. If you're just posting in one of these communities looking for some inspiration, that of course is fine, but bear in mind that besides your work or family, this hobby is probably one of the largest time investments you'll undertake in your life. When you spend so much time on all the aspects we're going to get into through this gaming journey, I could not imagine doing that with an army that didn't appeal to me personally. So how can you tell what army you want to collect? Check out the model range, and when you know a selection which appeals to you visually, Google and YouTube them, look up their lore, look up their sub-factions and how they play on the tabletop. You can check out some YouTube tutorials or even battle report videos so you can see the models being painted and played and whether that appeals to you. Only then can you truly know all the available information to back your decision and ultimately your purchase. Long story short, don't let strangers on a poll on the web influence your journey. Now, the reason I want to begin a World Eaters army is they've always resonated with me ever since I first got into the hobby. Even though I'd chosen to begin a Craftworld Eldar force, I, like many people, caught the lore and hobby bug and would spend my birthday and Christmas money for years on purchasing codexes and models to armies I didn't even own. Soon after beginning my Biltan force, an army which at that point consisted of the Eldar Start Collecting box, which was basically some Guardian Defenders, a Falcon, some jet bikes and a Viper, and then some metal models I'd purchased, including 3 Striking Scorpions, a Farseer and a Warp Spider Exarch, I was gripped by Abaddon and his Black Legion, and my brother, in the process of collecting Ultramarines at the time, was similarly enticed by Nurgle's Death Guard. Keep in mind, by the time the Whisperings of Chaos had influenced my brother and I, this was around late 3rd or early 4th edition, so the model range was limited compared to today's, but in my opinion, there's still something about the sci-fi horror that those classic sculpts convey, even if my Abaddon's right arm kept falling off. I'd spent a good couple years building up my Eldar force and was keen for a sea change. I wanted to explore the more evil side of 40k. Within my fledgling Black Legion force, my most prized units was a squad of Khorne Berserkers and some 3rd edition Bloodletters, including Champion, Musician and Standard Bearer. In my head, the influence of Khorne was most prevalent within my Black Legion warband. I was reading a book at the time based on Cuchulainn of Gaelic myth called On Raven's Wing, and so had even started painting some of my Berserkers up in my interpretation of tribal Gaelic patterns. Unfortunately, soon after this, I moved out of home and started working at a pretty early age, so I left behind the hobby and concentrated on earning money in a stable job. That is until in recent years, not long before COVID struck. So long story short, I've always loved Berserkers, the World Eaters emblem of a world being devoured, as well as the different aspects of Khorne, not only the god of blood and war, but also the older lore angle of martial pride. These really resonated with me, and I've always had the intention of picking them back up, even while collecting my Imperium aligned armies. Now that World Eaters have been released as a standalone force, I feel it truly is the best time to make a go of it, and not only a narrative setting, but also competitive, seeing how far I can go in a larger tournament, being a champion for both approaches to the game which aren't normally associated with each other, that is narrative and competitive play. When approaching this army, I really want to capture not only the absolute brutal savagery displayed by members of the World Eaters Legion, but also encapsulate their fall from grace, leave some hints of a more nobler lineage, if I can, and really embody the lore of the World Eaters as told through the Horus Heresy series, their short stories, and the most recent release, Angron, the Red Angel. By modelling and painting the Berserkers' weapons to be abused almost to breaking point, and model particular trophies such as Grey Knight helmets or weapons into my force, I can really start to display that narrative into my tabletop force. I've not seen anyone record a journey like this before, so I'm hoping it's an original take on a process many of us start, but not as many are able to finish due to life's various commitments. If you aren't subscribed already, consider hitting the sub button as you push me closer to that 30-hour challenge mark, but more importantly, so you're alerted to the series as it's published, and you can become part of our community. We've recently founded a Discord channel, which I'll link below. I'd love for this to be a hub of activity for those who enjoy any facet of the 40k setting, where we can all support each other. Keep your eyes peeled for our next video. Until then, take it easy, have a good one.